Sorry. Okay. So sustainable agriculture is like any other regular farming system that focuses in society's food needs and textile needs. However, the difference is that here it has a particular concern that that there's no risks or without compromising the ability of future generations. So it not only focuses in current generation but also in future generations without and doing it by understanding and respecting the environment and all the services that are involved. So now, just briefly, I will show you like a small set of photos that I think represent kind of well the philosophy of sustainable agriculture. In this first photo, you can see how the people here, in the way that they are farming, they are not damaging the environment or not using like negative inputs that could damage it, right? But also at the same time, you can see that it's kind of suitable for marginated areas where few resources are available. Here you can see like a table full with a diverse set of food crops that we all normally can get, no, in the market or wherever, no. However, if correct measures are not being utilized, future generation could be affected, but by not getting what we are getting right now. So it's very important, very crucial, and this could happen also to the textile, no, or to that clothing, no. If crops that are used for these purposes get affected, future generations could not have like these benefits, no, that we have right now for food or for clothing, no. This is another photo that I liked it because here you can see like how for sustainable agriculture is very important the food security and the sustainability for rural areas as well as for them is very important to produce crops with very few resources, no. So how to do it, no. Now I will mention like the categories and techniques that are needed in order to make
Hi, Herman.
this.
Sorry for interrupting.
Uh-huh.
Did you press record for this presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Perfect. So the categories and techniques that are needed in order to make this system much more complete and much more efficient are these ones. First, the soil nutrient management, tillage and residue management, and adequate agronomic practices, integrated pest management, soil and water conservation, agroforestry, and improved livestock management. The last two are with a different font, a lower font, because are kind of independent to the others. As you can see, the other ones kind of follow a sequence or complement very well with each other. The other ones could fit, but at the same time, if they don't belong to agroforestry or livestock, the other ones are separate from it, no? So that's why I will not deepen much into these two. I will deepen up into the others. So let's start with soil and nutrient management. So these are different practices that could benefit the soil, no? First, we start with mulching, no? Mulching is covering the soil with organic matter. Then we have the improved fallow. What's improved fallow? It's planting fast-growing legumes in order to improve the soil fertility. Then we have the manure management, which is handling solid manure into croplands in order to augment the fertility and also augment the land's productivity. Here you can see. Then we have composting that is controlled by the decomposition of plants and animal waste in order to produce organic fertilizer. Then we have improved fertilizer use with efficiency that involves various techniques for the reduction for reducing the amount of fertilizer inputs. No. Then the tillage and residue management. Through this technique, we can reduce the soil disturbance from the planting. We can increase the carbon in the soil. We can increase the water infiltration, conserve the soil moisture, prevent erosion. Then we go to the agronomic practices, which are techniques that farmers normally use to improve the soil management. First, let's start with cover crops and green manure, which are used which are planted to increase the fertility and improve yields, to protect the soil from the heat, from the wind, and even from the moisture. No, you can see here. So these cover crops normally you put them before the main crop is being established. Then the intercropping or even the alley cropping, which is planting crops that improve the productivity by increasing the diversity of crops being planted. No, you can diversify or put in the same terrain maize, soybean, oats, and not only single croppings, but you can diversify. No, so this could be more beneficial to your soil, to the environment itself. No? Then we have the crop rotation, which is mostly planting legumes and grasses with other crops, and this also helps maintain the fertility in the soil. It avoids the buildup of pests, weeds, and other diseases. And finally, we have improved crop varieties, which are varieties that have been developed with special characteristics. These special characteristics could be high yields, reduce of fertilizer, augment the disease resistance. Then going on to the integrated pests management, or well known as IPM. This is a strategy that is used to suppress pests with a minimum impact on human health and environment. And it's very good to augment the crop productivity by reducing the crop damage, and also reduces the cost of pest management. There are four methods of doing it. First is the cultural methods. The cultural methods is for example, you choose the plants in which the pests you choose plants that are resistant to the pests, and then you establish them in the right place. You use healthy transplants, crop rotations, intercropping, etc. The physical methods involves removing pests from plants, hand picking, trapping, mulching. The biological method focuses in keeping pests in check and using natural enemies or beneficial insects to attack or to eliminate the pests that are attacking your crop. No? And finally, the chemical method, that it should only be considered or used if the other methods were not efficient, no? And in case there's no other alternative and you have to use it, try to use biological insecticides, as these ones are less toxic, no? And moreover, uh, despite the method that you decide to use, you need to follow a protocol in order to make sure that your pests are being controlled. This protocol involves the monitoring. So you check in your field if there you have any pests or any type of diseases present. So constantly you're checking. If you check and then confirm that you have something, you try to identify what is it, no? To be more efficient in the controlling, no? Then you need to establish the plant's tolerance level and making sure that the economic threshold is not exceeded, no? So this is also what it was said just at the beginning of this topic, no? It's very important to control the pests, but also not trying to do more or to exceed what what we can what we can do against of it, because that could be more damaging or more negative towards our environment, no? So we need to establish a threshold and say, okay, if the pests trespass this line, okay, we need to act, we need to do something, no? So we need to be very clear and understand what's this level, no? Then we need to develop a pest management strategy and uh, and plan what we need to do, no, to attack the problem. And then we need to evaluate the results to see whether our method was accurate or not, or if we need to change it. Then, in relation to the soil and management and water management, this type of technique focuses in the prevention of water scarcity, increases the soil or organic matter, augments the fertility in the soils, and also augments the yields in the crops. Moreover, there are many structural measures to conserve the water as well as the soil. One of these methods is, like you can see in this photo, is creating ditches to make the water much more efficient. Also, the planting basins, the terraces, or well, the counter bonds. Now, talking about the importance and benefits of the sustainable agriculture, just let's make a reminder, or that's by 2050, the global population will be of 9 billion people, meaning that the food production will have to increase a 70% to meet the entire demands. Despite the significant amount of people involved in agriculture to produce food, there is a big concern about the limited resources that are left in the world. There is a fact, there is a big reality that nowadays we depend so much in unsustainable practices that generate massive amounts of food waste. And for that reason, there is a crucial need to create much more sustainable practices within the agricultural industry. What are the benefits of this sustainable agriculture? First, it preserves the environment, as we have been saying all through this presentation. It helps maintain the soil quality. It's good because the society's food and textile needs can be met, but not only for the current generation, but also for future generation. So that's something that other farming system do not consider. No, so it's a more conscious system. Mhm. Another benefits that this sustainable agriculture presents is that is a system that involves a multi-crop farming with less land. Uh-huh. Uh, and in comparison with a single cropping system that needs lots of land, lots of space to only produce one crop, no? And at the end, you are damaging more the soil because you are not providing the sufficient nutrients or crop rotation or this diversity that the end the natural environment is needing, no? And that this multi-crop farming with less land also is the combination of tall and sun-loving plants with short and shade-loving plants in a very short land. So in a short land, you can produce a big diversity of crops. No? Another benefit, it decreases the animal cruelty. So in many factories, they 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 have this animal cruelty, especially if it's with conventional methods, no? So if it's now through sustainable agriculture, they try to reduce this cruelty, and also because through sustainable agriculture, the farms try to limit the number of animals per farm. They are more humane, and the given diets for each of the animals are mostly plant-based, which means that they are more healthy, no? And other benefits, it's that reduces water pollution. And see what and how does this happen? As the harmful fertilizer or chemicals are being reduced or even eliminated, then in consequence the water is cleaner, no? So it's something very positive. Now we pass to the next section, plant breeding. What's plant breeding? Plant breeding is something very passionate for me because it's this combination between art and science of changing certain traits of plants in order to produce others with more desirable characteristics. Uh-huh. Here we have the images of some scientists, some breeders that are playing with the DNA in order to produce materials, more successful materials for certain conditions. No? And how did the plant breeding started? Well, actually, it started with something that is called plant domestication. Here you can see a small example of two plants that actually the one from the left is Teocintle, which it's the origin ancestor of corn, of maize, no? So after many generations of domesticating this teosinte, the corn, just the way that we know it's nowadays, it was developed, no? A very eatable crop, no? However, even though people from the past already developed this eatable crop, they were not totally satisfied. They kept selecting and selecting for desirable characteristics and eliminating the plants that did not satisfy this set of characteristics that they have in their minds, no? So everything that was not that was not in these lists was eliminated, no? And that's how the different open pollinated races or populations were created. So all these different mazes that you can see, all these different corns, are population. They are not varieties, meaning that they were developed through open pollination. No? So you can see very difference in color, texture, in size, and even if we go a little bit deeper, many of these mazes are good for certain cooking dishes or for or certain nutritional purposes, etc. No, so people started to detect these differences and say, what if I start to do certain combination between these groups and not only select between within each group, but also between groups, no? Because I see like perhaps in the purple maize, it could have a good disease resistance, or it could be very good for preparing tortillas or a Malay dish or whatever. Whereas the white maize could be very good for other set of traits, no? So they started doing different combinations and even start doing crosses with some other materials to see what happened and if they can pass some other characteristic to the offspring. And what was the result? Of course, they were able to generate a super maize, no? Something much more successful as their parental inbreds, no? What does this mean? That it was much more disease resistant. It was much more, it had more adaptability to different zones, different altitudes, different climates. And it was also very good for different cooking purposes, as well as much higher nutrition levels, no? So it was kind of super maize, no? Of course, this is not something constant, because plant breeding is something that is in constant movement. No, you need to keep improving and improvement. No, it's not that you have developed something and it will serve for the entire life. No, so you need to be modifying and modifying and keep understanding the environment, the climate, and the tendency of all of this. No, to keep developing a super maze. Now, after understanding this plant breeding philosophy and kind of the evolutionary process, I will show you how most of the plant breeding programs nowadays are structured. They are structured in phases, no? First, here's the phase one, where all the development and selections or the experiments occur, no? It's like the research per se. Then there's the phase two. What happens in phase two is the evaluation of trials. Whatever was developed in phase one, especially potential hybrids, it passes to phase two to be tested and evaluated. It's like a competition to start competing with other potential hybrids to see which one could have possibilities to be commercialized for the market. Then we go to phase three, which focuses in the seed production. Whatever was chosen in the phase two as a very potential material, it passes to the seed production phase to start the whole production, all the procedure before the commercialization. And finally, the phase four is commercialization. Is once you have the final product, you take it to the farmer or to the final consumer, and you deliver it. So going a little bit with more detail into the phase one, the development and selection, also called as nurseries. You start with establishment of a set of inbreds. Where can you get these inbreds? Well, you can obtain them from many different parts, no, of the world, or from a different specific area, no. So you collect them and you establish them. You don't know, perhaps you cannot know, you can know a little bit about them, or you can know nothing about them, no? So it can be that two ways. So either way, you don't know the performance specifically in your field, no, in your terrain. So you need to evaluate them and select whatever is good and whatever is horrible, no, and just keep with whatever is excellent, no, and that's how you advance these materials, no, for the future generations, and the the development of the materials keeps going, because whatever is horrible, it gets eliminated, no. There are important considerations in this phase. First, is very important that you have a very uniform management as well as soil preparation for all these sub phases during the development of inbreds, no. It means that the dosage, the fertilizing dosages need to be equal, the irrigation, the soil, the manure that you are adding, everything needs to be very uniform, no. So the selection turns to be very fair and adequate, and you're not just selecting something beautiful because it had the good luck to be grown in a place where good irrigation, good fertilizer was established, no. So everything needs to be very fair, no. So you need to evaluate materials during different plant stages, at least just after sowing, during the flowering time, and after harvest. It's very important to characterize your materials according to heterotic group. For instance, in maize, it's very important to characterize your materials according to heterotic groups. Why? Because when you cross materials of two different heterotic groups, it's very probable to obtain hybrids that have higher yields or better characteristics due to something that it's called heterosis. I will not tell you much, but maybe if you have questions, I will try to solve them. I try to put something else here. Other important consideration is to identify materials for crossing in order to develop improved varieties. At the same time that you are evaluating and selecting inbreds, you are also choosing which materials have the potential to be crossed with others in order to produce hybrids, no? In phase 2, the evaluation of trials. First, you get these hybrids that were developed or formed in the nurseries, no? What can you do with these hybrids? You create an adequate randomization with the correct number of replications and locations, and with that, you prepare and you make a seed preparation for your planting, no? According to this randomization, no? So you plant in reps and locations, and once these hybrids are established in the field, you proceed with the evaluation of hybrids. Also during the sowing time, flowering time, and harvest, to see this development, no? It's very important to consider that the arrangement of these hybrids, of these trials, at least are for two locations, and each location at least has to be for two reps. So then the analysis will be more accurate, no? You're testing a specific hybrid in two different replication and in two different location at least, no? So it's not that you're different, you're testing different genetic sources, no? You're testing, for example, 10 different hybrids with different genetics, but these 10 different hybrids get replicated in each location, in each replication, with an adequate randomization. After evaluating and getting all the information, you pass to an adequate statistical analysis to obtain the data and know exactly which hybrid could be the best one, either in the overall, like in the multi-location, multi-reps, or for a single location or condition establishment. No? The important consideration for this phase is that it's crucial to have a uniform management per location or per condition. So if one condition I decide to have like a low nitrogen management, then the whole location, the whole condition has to be managed under that procedure. No? Under these, the trials should be open pollinated. Then just as I said, the materials should be evaluated at least after sowing, during flowering time, and after harvest. Then we have the phase 3, the seed production, which is divided in 4 phases. First, we have the nucleus seed. What's the nucleus seed? Is the original seed, the seed that the breeder got from somewhere else and incorporated to his program to start doing his own developments. No? This nucleus seed will also be the source for something that is called the breeder seed. What's the breeder seed? Is the seed that the breeder has developed, no? From the nucleus seed, and also will be the source for the foundation seed. The foundation seed at the same time will be the source for the certified seed. What's the certified seed? The certified seed is a seed right produced under strict seed certification standards to maintain the seed purity. The certified seeds must pass field inspection by approved seed conditioning plants and should be sampled for lab testing before these are sold to the market. Finally, the phase 4, the commercialization. We start with certified seeds that were gotten from the seed production. Then the marketing team start to design the most adequate strategy to place these products, these seeds, into the markets. Which markets should be the most adequate to locate them, why, try to understand the market, etc. No? And once they do it, they pass it to the salespeople to try to sell them. No? Important considerations in this phase is that the seed certification is a strict process that follows a 3-step process. That is, first, you need to value and compare the traits of the new variety with others that already exist in the market. Then, you need to test also the uniformity and stability of these new varieties before you release them to the market. Then there's like an extra classification, like a lower and cheaper classification, which is the quality declared seeds. No, is certified seeds, but like a kind of cheaper. No. Moreover, it's fundamental to understand the differences between sales and marketing. Sales are activities that lead to selling goods and services, whereas marketing is a process of getting people interested into selling goods. What are the benefits, the importance and benefits of plant breeding? Well, there are so many, no? But let's start from the very basic. First, the plant breeder or whatever is being developed needs to attend the needs of the farmer and consumer. It means what does the farmer needs? The farmer needs a product, a crop that is suitable for their lands, for their terrains, no? That produces good yields, good disease resistance, good adaptability, no? And for the other side, the consumer needs something that is attractive, has good taste, good size, etc. No? Moreover, in terms of the agro-related impact, it is very beneficial as it develops materials for extreme condition that without the breeding support, these materials couldn't be obtained, such as breeding for materials where there's a lot of drought or there's a lot of low nitrogen or is very high with a high altitude, etc. No? Then, in terms of food security, it provides the necessary crop varieties for the sustainability of every country. In terms of it's very good to develop more nutritious crops. It's good in order to augment the genetic diversity, which at the same time is very good in order to increase the possibilities of creating new and better varieties. If you have more options to play with, a bigger pool of options to make crosses, and the possibilities of developing something good increase, no? Then, in terms of technology transfer, it could be between from the scientist to the farmer, or from the scientists to the students, no? The important is that everybody gets informed. Finally, another importance of the plant breeding is that it helps develop the agricultural sector. Especially, it's much more effective if each part understands its role. For instance, the universities, as perhaps they have not as much money as the private companies, they could focus in very academic or specific research or innovations that perhaps it could represent more time for the private sector, no? Then the private companies could focus in massify these innovations, or well, to try to make more expensive research, no? But at the end, try to team up. And then we have the government, no? Which could be very efficient, or help a lot in providing adequate certifications, protocols, in order to facilitate all this to happen. Then, moving on to the third section, plant breeding and sustainable agriculture plus plant breeding. Let's just ask for a moment. Why to do it? Plant breeding plus sustainable agriculture. Well, as we have been saying along the presentation, the world population is growing and growing, and just in handy, there's more and more demand, no? However, the problem is that we have very few resources to get to those results, no? The breed varieties that have been developed so far are for high input systems. It means that these super varieties that have been developed so far are for farming systems that with lots of technology that's require lots of money, and they do not consider much marginated areas, which is kind of sad, no? So these these areas that represent a big percentage of our territory are not being attended, no? Another reason of why to do it is because there's an excessive use of chemicals which cause a serious threat into the ecology, the environment, the soil health, and the ground's water. Another reason is that limited land of agriculture due to urbanization and environmental degradation. So even that we have all these problems and obstacles, we to sum up, we also have the problem of the limited area for agriculture. No? What else? However, is not the thing is not so pessimistic as the scientists have understood the importance of improving crops genetics in order to perform well against threats and stresses, and doing it in a way that enhances the sustainability of farms. How to do it? Well, in my way of thinking, there are two ways of doing it. And these two ways at the end could complement very well with each other. The first way is plant breeding for sustainable agriculture, which means developing varieties and inbreds in a breeding program for places where sustainable agriculture is being managed. So graphically, you have a breeding program, you work, and then whatever you develop here, you try to test it in places where sustainable agriculture is being managed. The other way, or the other manner to put sustainable agriculture in plant breeding is just the other way around, is sustainable agriculture inside a plant breeding program. So it means that developing a program with sustainable agriculture protocols in all its phases and processes, which means that, okay, we already have a breeding program with different processes, different phases, different procedures. So now we need to modify the protocol. So in each procedure, sustainable agriculture protocols should be used. So in the first way, the plant breeding for sustainable agriculture, we have different steps to do it. Actually, only three. First is the germplasm collection. So we need to collect this different set of inbreds or materials from different places, and then establish them in trials or evaluating sets in order to identify superior phenotypes, either for taking them to the farmers so they can grow them, or to identify potential candidates for hybridization, and so meaning to produce successful hybrids. The second way of putting sustainable agriculture in plant breeding is sustainable agriculture inside plant breeding, no? And we can do it by utilizing all the already mentioned techniques and protocols of sustainable agriculture in each of our plant breeding procedures, no? Such as the soil nutrient management, like mulching, manure management and composting, tillage and residue management, agronomic practices such as crop rotation, intercropping, and improved varieties, integrated pest management. So we just use the adequate use of control, not using it if it does not trespass the threshold, the economic threshold. If it trespasses it, okay, is justified to take action. No? And finally, the soil and water conservation using ditches, terraces, etc. No? What are the benefits of doing it? Well, as plant breeding plant breeding tools can identify positive gene activity responses toward biotic or abiotic stresses, making it easier to develop new crop varieties adapted to extreme conditions. Meaning that thanks to plant breeding, we can identify and even develop materials that are suitable for places where sustainable agriculture is being managed. Another benefit of doing it is that some traits that can be improved in plant breeding and that uh, are make a lot of noise in sustainable agriculture are uh, disease resistance, tolerance against abiotic stresses like different temperatures, altitudes, etc. Nutrient and water use efficiency effectively. And finally, it improves minor or orphan crops in marginal areas, especially in developing countries, where the big seed companies are not interested to develop for. Why? Because it's not profitable for them. So sadly, that's how they operate. No, if it's not profitable, why to develop something for them? No. So through the conjunction of sustainable agriculture and plant breeding, we can concentrate into these very marginated areas. Other benefits of doing it is that it expands the agricultural outputs without increasing the environmental hazards, and by reducing the use of fossil fuels, water, and other negative impacts, um, and by using plant breeding techniques to develop materials that are suitable for conditions where sustainable agriculture is being managed. No? And you can use like even pre-Mendelian genetics toward the most modern genetics. No, so it's getting use of all these tools. Finally, the conclusions. First, as understanding, we have all this noise about the growth of the population, which is expected to grow to up to 10 billion people by 2050. We need to increase the feed production necessarily, like very significantly. It's crucial to have access to a wide range of genetic diversity for the success of breeding programs in order to fight against world hunger. It's fundamental to consider strategic goals for the genetic improvement of agricultural crops in order to adapt against climate change, variations in temperature, water availability, raising salinity, development of new pathogen threats, while enhancing at the same time the sustainability of agricultural farms. Plant breeding can be a powerful tool in a near future to bring harmony between agriculture and the environment. However, it's important to have partnership between plant breeders, ecologists, urban planners, and policymakers to make this happens. This cannot happen by itself. No, you need to create a team. Sustainable agriculture reduces harm to the environment through the listening, elimination of polluting substances such as pesticides and nitrogen fertilizers, water and soil conservation practices, as well as the maintenance of agricultural biodiversity as a whole. And that's all. Terima kasih banyak, and thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you very much for your interesting and very energetic talk, Herman.
Thank you, thank you.
And now, if anyone has any question, you can type your question in Q&A box or in the chat box. So I'm sure that Herman will be happy to answer your questions. Okay, Herman, while waiting for other question, maybe I
Okay.
can ask you one or
Yeah,
two questions.
of course. Yeah, yes.
Okay. Between conventional plant breeding and
Uh-huh.
market-assisted breeding, in
Mm-hmm.
your opinion, which one is better?
Well, I think you shouldn't choose between one or another one. No,
Mhm.
conventional breeding is for me is like more artistic because it depends a lot of the phenotype in whatever you see in the field. No,
Yeah.
Whereas the molecular breeding is more in the laboratory and more mostly in the genotype. No, but what if the two of them complement with each other?
Yeah.
Instead of seeing which one is better, I think it's much more better, much more complete if they team up. If you say it in a way, no. There are things or benefits that the molecular breeding provides that the conventional breeding is lacking of. No, for example, that precision that the molecular breeding provides, you cannot have it in the conventional breeding until many generations. And just if the you have like a very uniform management, or the plants, the genotypes that later on will express into phenotypes that you chose were the correct ones, and you did not selected like the wrong genotypes because of wrong phenotype expressions that occur because environmental effects, no. And thanks to the molecular breeding, you can reduce all that obstacles and eliminating these disturbances, and just focusing in the genotype. Okay, what's in the genetic of my plant? I have it or not? I have the resistance or the desirable traits that I need or not. Okay, if they are available, plant them. If not, not. So you can also save a lot of money through molecular approaches, because instead of waiting until you put them in the field and see what happens and what phenotype they express, you can see it in your PCRs or in your molecular results, no, to see whether it's worthy to plant them or not, no. But also, if you just support yourself only in molecular breeding, you are lacking of this sensitivity that I think the molecular breeding sometimes doesn't have, because you are in the conventional breeding, you need to sense the plants, you need to be very familiarized with the plants, no, get in touch and with their sizes, with their behavior in this or that environment, or understand why this plant that in theory has this genotype, I know how these shoots perform, why and why now is performing this way, no? What variable in the environment is affecting it, no? So you also become like more sensitive and more artistic, no? So, but I think if you use both techniques, you could be much more successful.
Okay, thanks, Herman. So I can say that not only plant breeder, but everyone like plant pathologists, botanists, and entomologists and biotechnologists have to work together for the production of our foods, right?
Of course, of course.
Okay, we have question in the
Mhm.
chat box. Do you
Okay.
have any suggestion how to educate farmers about sustainable agriculture instead of giving talks?
Ah, of course, yeah. I think it would be much more worthy, like applying like kind of demonstrative fields, and not only like to bring the farmers and see whatever is planted and with a sustainable agricultural practices, but uh, if it's possible to set up like a demonstrative plots in their actual fields where they normally have a regular establishment, so they can compare with their own eyes which type of system is better, no? It's not something that that someone is telling them by a presentation, no? But it's something that they are seeing with their own eyes, and also it could also be beneficial for the one that is giving the talk or that is providing the the support, no, in this case for the breeder or the expert in sustainable agriculture, because probably in his head or in his mind he could have like a good idea of what is it, no, but at the moment that he is transferring this technology, maybe he could learn things that he did not consider before, no, and start like applying things, techniques adapted to this zone, or how to even improve his methodology, no. So I think in a summarized way, I think starting with demonstrative plots first, just like they can see it like more visually and more physically what we are trying to demonstrate, and then like in a more interactive, no, so they can be part of this procedure, since the sowing, how to prepare the land, the soil, the how to create more efficient ways to manage the water, etc., no? And also it would be much more worthy if we receive this feedback from them, no? What they think, or because I yes I assume that they already have like lots of experience for many years uh, in how to manage their crops, no, perhaps with conventional methods, but they know, no, so they could provide like very useful information on how to modify or how to do it even better, no. So I don't know if it's clear.
Okay, that question was from Dr. Afiza.
Ah, okay.
Is it okay? Uh, is there any question from the audience, from the participants? You can just leave your question in the chat box. Okay, Dr. Afiza said thank you very much.
Ah, okay. Sama-sama.
So, okay, please take this opportunity to ask Herman, because it's not a regular talk to have uh, a guest speaker from international. You can ask any question to him, and I'm sure he would like to answer your question. Okay, maybe I will ask one more question,
Yeah,
Herman.
perfect. As many as you want. I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, what are challenge for agriculture after the pandemic COVID-19?
Well, I think for all of us, it was like a big hit. Like Now we need to act like more consciously, no? And we have like two sectors, not two options, two sides here, no? The farmer and the consumer, no? How can we protect the farmer to still keep delivering food to the consumer? Because yeah, we have this pandemic, and probably later on we will have other issues, not very more perhaps more aggressive or not so much. But how to handle it? No, at the end people still needs to eat, no? We cannot stop eating, no? So how to take this as a learning point and take the best of it, no? So how to to make the farmers more conscious about the situation, like providing them with the correct equipment for their awareness and protections against these viruses, respecting the distance, the healthy the distance between the people, or to avoid the disease spreading. Also, I think it will. This is like a new turning point in which agriculture will need to utilize much more modern technology. No, so in case that people are not available, how can I still produce? No, and how can I develop it, this equipment, this technology, without the need of expending lots of money, no? So this will require like this thing, like from innovators and farmers, how to deal with this thing. And also uh, improving probably the controlling systems, the to making sure that the quality that you are offering to the market, to the final consumers, is guaranteed, no? Because now like, with all this wave that we are all crazy, that we are scared that whatever we are eating is contaminated, or not. How to how to make sure that is disease free, no? So how to make the adequate connections with these agencies and protocols, and the agencies, or government, or etc., that provide these certifications, no? And also, no, but not also not only creating these labels, but how to assist the people so they can be certified adequately, no? So it's like with the correct, giving them the correct guidance to do it. So not getting to the same place as before, that only people with money and enough resources could pay this for these certifications, not. So how to make this guidance and this support available for everybody, so everybody can have this warranty for the customer, no?
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Herman. More questions are coming now in the chat box.
Okay.
Okay, I will try to read one by one. First,
Perfect.
from Dr. Rohayu, UMT. She's
Okay.
also one of our collaborator.
Excellent.
Her question is, what is your strategies in collaboration to
Mhm.
develop the new variety that benefits to farmers in lower costs?
Okay. For Malaysia, I think yes, right?
Yeah.
So I think, like for instance, what is doing right now GWG, and well, in conjunction with UNISA and MOA, is great, no? Because as I showed in one of my slides, it could be kind of impossible if you try to solve a problem just by yourself, no? So you need to recognize your weaknesses as well as your areas of opportunity, to team up more strategically, with other institutes or other parts in order to achieve better results. No, I think now in Malaysia, in order to develop more successful varieties, is uh, now returning to your first question about what's better, like the molecular breeding or conventional breeding, maybe trying to see, okay, in all these institutes or all these parts that are teaming up, which one is stronger, like in the molecular side, which one is stronger in the conventional, or which one other is stronger in the marketing and the policy making side, etc., in order to understand better how the entire behavior or function of the team uh, works, no? So we can achieve results. Also, it could be very good to be very, very clear in our objectives. What would we like to achieve? For instance, in my breeding program, I like to be very clear. Of course, I like to be aggressive and ambitious, but at the same time, you need to be realistic and have your baby steps. What can I do today or in the next 6 months to achieve this? What is in my hands to do it? No, and perhaps also that market is not ready. No, in my dreams or in my mind, I'd like to develop a mazes that have like lots of provitamin A or that are good for good high levels of nutrition or etc. But what if still the market is not ready nor is not prepared for that? So understand for what is the market ready? No, if it's just ready for the animal feed or for what? Okay, then start with that. Settle your breeding program, your objectives, and focus in that. And little by little, perhaps in a parallel manner, construct your alternative, your dream alternative. So you don't leave it aside. So in case if you still want to uh, augment the nutritional levels of the people through maize or other crops, you can start from zero. No, just as I started a breeding program. No, how determine the markets, what specific traits should be interesting to develop, etc. No? But first, starting what is available and needed right now. No.
Okay, I hope that's uh, answer the question. Another question is plant morphology characteristic can be influenced by the environment. If we plant in open field, can you
Mm-hmm.
share how to maintain the desired characteristics or
Well,
at least minimize the environmental effects on the plant?
of course, as we know, what we see in the field, what we see in the let me. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you can see in the field is the result of two things: the genotype and the environmental effects. No. So if you say, okay, I want to that the expression or the phenotype of my plant always be the same, and whereas maintaining the whatever is the let me just sorry is the genotypes or the genetics of my crop, how to maintain it, no? So that's very difficult because it's not the expression or the phenotype of your crop is not only dependent on one variable that is genetics. It also is very dependent on the other factor that is environment. So it's unless the environment is super uniform, the the irrigation, the fertilizing dosages, the soil preparation, etc., etc., etc. That the disease the disease manifestation, etc. Uh, unless all those variables are being controlled, you will see like certain variables, no? Also, if the crop that you are using is not entirely pure, genetically speaking, also there's something else to add to the equation, no? So it's not only a possible variable, a possible variable in the environment that is causing this effect, but also the genetics, no? But considering that the genetic is totally pure, that the field was managed very uniform and everything, yeah, in theory, it should behave very equally. So just think about how the seed production is occurs. The seed production occurs also in an open field, and once you have these two parentals that you make sure that they are very uniform, you plant them and then you develop the hybrid, right? So probably there should be some difference, and you eliminate whatever it has like a is an outcross or is different, no? But in general, I think in these cases is mostly like in these big companies that are focused in developing hybrids, they have well understood the controlling system, the management, so they have everything very uniform, no? Either the genetic purity and the environmental management, no? Almost like as if you were growing it in a greenhouse, no? But I think it could be possible. So that's why I think it's very important, a very adequate and strict controlling system, no? So then you know exactly which variable is the one that is causing more noise. Either is the temperature, the amount of water is entering to your crop, or etc., etc. No, so if you have like a more data, more cures, more graphs about what's happening, you know better what variable is causing the noise.
Okay. Thanks,
Mhm.
Herman. I
Oh, thank you.
see we have more questions coming, but we actually lack of time now.
Okay.
Maybe we can just answer, you can just answer one more question, and we
Okay.
will leave the remaining questions for your next talk.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
One question from Nur Fazrin Arifan.
Okay.
Has GWG provide teaching session or breeding classes for public to join?
Mm, well, I have already given like some talks, but like an actual course, I don't know. I think that's one of the reasons of this involvement with UNISA. No, that now I will start teaching and developing the breeding program with you. But I don't know. It could be, and also is good that there's like this linkage and this relationship between GWG and UNISA, no? Because we could have like this, and I think it's at the end is kind of the idea, no? To have these teaching sessions or this between the two worlds, like some things that could be taught in UNISA and some others at the research station at GWG, like in a more practical manner, like internships. I actually had like some interns in GWG that and my biggest students. I don't know if Naila and Bella are here. They're like, because they are like day by day they are there, and now they are my teachers, no? So they can tell me, they can tell you and even correct me if I'm wrong, but uh, I think that the best school is doing it there, and through observation, learning the language of the breeder and the methodologies, and that's actually how I learn better, no? By doing it. Of course, some techniques, some knowledge, some theory, I learned it from school, but the best, the most that I learn it from the actual job, no?
Yeah. Okay, so if our student is interested to learn more about plant breeding, you can apply for internship at GWG, so you can get the more hands-on practice how to manage crops and do breeding.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Afiza, do we still have time?
Maybe one or two more if you want.
We have two more questions. Can you
Excellent.
answer it or just? Uh, yeah, two more
Two
questions.
more questions. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe you can finish.
Okay. One question from your teacher, Nabila.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
From Liana first. Liana,
Liana, where is Liana?
good morning.
Okay, good morning. I'm Liana, a student of agrobiotechnology. May
Ah,
I
okay.
know how the system of agriculture in Mexico, do they have more export than import?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like, sadly, the more the crops or the produce that has the highest quality is for export, and the mostly the low quality produce is for to be consumed locally, no? So the worst for the Mexicans, no? Is sad. But in some parts in the north of the country and in an area that is called the El Bajío and some other parts, agricultural is very technified and very good, no? Now in Mexico we were not like in our best phase, not only due to the COVID, but for our government and other situations that are slowing our not only the agriculture but the whole economic situation, no? Uh, but yeah, I think there are things that are very good with their pros and others that are still uh, that need to be improved in order to be more efficient. Uh, there are many contrasts in Mexico. There are areas where very few growers, or even only one, have lots of terrain, lots of land, and very technified. Whereas, like for example, in the south, there are very poor and marginated areas that they don't have access, of course, to this technology, no? And the big seed companies or don't care about them because it's not profitable for them, no? So again, we return to the same. There's innovation, of course. There's development of new varieties, new technology. But who's the one that is getting access to them? The ones that have the money, no? So it's getting more and more segregated, and sadly the government is not taking the right measurements to reduce this segregation, no? Because at the end we would need to team up between all sectors to produce food. We couldn't just depend of only the rich ones for our supply. because one day it won't be enough. We have seen the numbers of how much the world population will be growing, and it's illogical to think that only if with them the the food supply will be enough, no? So, and we need to be fair. We need to provide the adequate tools for everybody in order to produce sufficiently and not segregate this difference, no, and keep points. But we need to be fair.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, Diana. One last question from Nabila.
Okay.
She was asking you about sweet corn male and female line. We
Okay.
noticed that male line is not uniform, such as too big, too early to come out with tassel and not synchronized. Why it can happen like that?
Again, can you repeat?
She was asking you about sweet corn that
Uh-huh.
has female and male line.
Uh-huh.
We noticed that male line is not uniform, such as too big, too early to come out with tassel and not synchronized.
Okay.
Why this happen?
So I think one reason that this could happen is that's probably the the way that it was developed or it was released, it was not totally pure. So again, again what I was saying, no, how to maintain the uniformity of a crop in the in the open field, no. So I'm thinking that probably the genetic source that she used for the male, right, was not totally pure.
Okay.
So some seeds had some genotypes and some others another one, and probably when she or the one that gave her the seed uh, chose the seed from their phenotype the previous season, no, whatever they saw in the field. Okay, everything looked the same. However, you know that when you choose something not in their genetic side, it is not always the same, no. It could be different. One thing is the phenotype and the other one is the genotype, no. So probably as perhaps they didn't go on their molecular testing or many generations of purifying the this male inbred. Probably there's a chance that this male is not totally pure, no. And also I don't know if the management either the soil preparation or other only for these males was totally uniform, no. Perhaps there was a spot where the soil had like more nitrogen or more water got if drained there, no. So there are many factors, no. But my first response could I haven't also seen the pictures of that's male in the field, but probably my first thought could be that the sources that she used were not totally genetically pure at first, no.
Okay. Okay, I hope that's answered the question. Thank you very much, Mr. Herman Mingram, for
No,
your
thank you.
talk and Q&A session. That was very interesting. Uh, okay, now that's the end of our e-press today. I would like to thank you all, the participants, and I hope you enjoy the program. Thank you.
No, thank you, thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Herman.
No, thank you, thank you. Terima kasih.
Sama-sama.
Selamat pagi.
Oh, good night for you.
Good
Yes.
night.
Selamat malam.
Thank you, thank you. You can see at the chat box. Can open the chat box.
The chat box. Where is
Hmm.
it? Where is it? Yeah, yeah. Woof. There are so many.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And probably need to print all of these. No, there are so many.
Okay. Now we are in the end. So I claim back the host role.
Okay. Let me.
Okay.
So, can I copy and
Okay. Yeah. Just I stop the recording and I can give you the record.
okay, you can give me the record
Yeah. Yes. I can give you the record.
and all these questions that are in the chat box. I have to copy them, or you can also provide them to me.
I check first on the record.
Okay.
If no, maybe I need to copy first.
Okay, but
Mm.
you can get access to
Yes,
these
yes.
questions and messages.
Yes, I can access.
Perfect. So I just pressed to the stop
Yes,
recording.
yes, yes. Yes, yes.
Oh, I don't know if it's.
Oh, now I am a host. I just stop the record.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all.
Bye. Thank
Selamat
you.
pagi.
Okay, I
Selamat
will
pagi.
end the event now. Okay?
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.